Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today on Around Kansas, join us for a story about this year's Walnut Valley Festival and its history. Then join us for a story about butterflies. Next, we'll have a poem from Ron Wilson, and we'll end with a look at the recent updates on the grand reunion of the Forsyth Scouts. Stay with us. Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com. This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life. Well, hello, I'm Frank in Topeka, Kansas, at the Wren Internet Radio Studios in Topeka. And Deb, my co-host, is way out there in western Kansas somewhere. And this is the program called Around Kansas. We do it every Wednesday. And it is a show that promotes agritourism primarily in the state. A show that talks about people, places, and things that make Kansas a great place to live, work, play, and come visit. And gosh, here we are. We're already into September. Can you believe it? Wow. Labor Day weekend just passed. Hope you had a safe time and a good time and didn't get rained on a lot. I just saw a story, of course, it was on Facebook, so you go, okay. But anyway, the Old Farmer's Almanac for this year, for our part of the country, as far as winter goes, is going to be a very wet one. But it isn't necessarily going to be snow. There's an El Nino, of course, that'll come up off the coast of California, and that means there's going to be warm, moist air. So at least for our area, it says to expect a lot of rain and mild temperatures. Now, that's okay with me. So anyway, we'll see if the almanac is correct again. Let's see, how long has it been published? Since 1790, something like that, I believe. And it is rarely wrong. So anyway, here we are in September, and it's the fall season in the state of Kansas, which means there are festivals everywhere. We've been talking about it, but again, I urge you to go visit these festivals because they really are a lot of fun, and many of them are ethnic. So you see a German festival and all kinds of festivals that are really pretty cool. And of course, the one over in Bonner Springs, the Renaissance Festival. Anyway, so be sure to visit festivals, and there's still some county fairs going on, and those are always fun too. And then there is the drive through the Flint Hills. Now, because of our crazy weather this year, hopefully the trees will be in full blazing color. But believe me, it is worth taking a trip over through the Flint Hills. K4, K19, K90, go over there and it will take your breath away. So hopefully this year we'll get that blaze of color again. So Deb has some pretty good stories today. Let me get my notes. We've been talking about festivals, and she'll have a story about the Walnut Valley Festival and butterflies. Now, I haven't seen this story, so I don't know if it's about butterflies in general, because it doesn't say anything about it being monarchs. But of course, this is the time of the year when the monarchs have their migration to the south. And so anyway, we've got some pretty good stories today. So stay right here. As soon as you see these messages, you and I will get to see what Deb has today. Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com.
Highways 40, 83, and I-70 come together right here in Oakley. Roads that lead to businesses, to magnificent rock formations, to scenic vistas, to places where legends were made. Roads that lead us home. Discover Oakley, the gateway to western Kansas.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Hi, I'm Kim Mandarin with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine Center. Your stem cells, your health, your life.
The grand reunion of Forsyth Scouts kicked off at the Lincoln Museum in Lincoln, Kansas on August 24th. With 39 descendants of the 50 fearless men in attendance, it was certainly memorable. The Chalmers Smith family had the most descendants present, coming from as far as Florida and Michigan. The next day, the 8th Kansas Infantry, acting as the fort's garrison troops, raised the flag at Fort Harker, signaling the registration of the first 30 scouts. As the roll was called, each scout stood before the same desk used by Major Henry Inman 150 years earlier to the day. The man portraying Major Inman was his great-great-grandson, Dennis Bailey of Ellsworth. As each scout's name was called, the descendants stood to be recognized. Historian Mike Day observed that Scout Howard Morton's name was called, and his descendants stood up. Next up, they called Scout Henry Tucker, and his descendants stood up. And they were seated next to each other. Ironically, back in 1868, Scouts Tucker and Morton were neighbors in the Tescott area. Immediately behind Scout Tucker's descendants were the representatives of the Peet family. In 1898, Scouts Tucker and Peet, along with Chalmers Smith, went to Colorado to find Beecher Island, 30 years after the battle. The famous old Pete Henry rifle that rode with the relief column to Beecher Island was displayed courtesy of Jamie Lee Shank and family. Greg Heller, the curator of the Fort Harker Guardhouse Museum, presented throughout the day, sharing the history of the fort and welcoming the descendants and the public. After the chaplain's church services on Sunday morning, the scouts headed for Fort Hays and the enlistment of more scouts. At Fort Hays, 20 more scouts were added to the roster, and we will feature their activities next week. The commemoration moves to Fort Wallace this weekend. Friday night, September 7th, the Fort Wallace Museum will host a buffalo supper with the scouts for members of its Guardians of Fort Wallace, its Friends group. To join, call or email the museum. Memberships are available at the door, but reservations should be made. Also that evening, the docudrama Thoth's Dragon will be shown. Cast and crew are also invited. A highlight of the weekend's events will be the unveiling of a lifelike sculpture of the Cheyenne warrior Roman Nose by Topeka artist Melissa Rao, with clothing by Ken Widener. An encampment of the Scouts and Buffalo Soldiers will be set up on the museum grounds. Historians presenting will be Lieutenant Colonel retired D.K. Clark, John Manette, Jerry Green, and Dave Harrington. A concert by Zerf, the Kansas Troubadour, will wrap up Saturday evening's activities. On Sunday morning, a 9 a.m. church service at the Bethany Lutheran Church on museum grounds will precede the horse-drawn procession to the old Fort Wallace Cemetery. The scouts who fell in the Battle of Beecher Island will be memorialized, as will Roman Nose and the Cheyenne Warriors. Events for the Fort Wallace Museum, September 7th through 9th, and the Beecher Island site, September 15th through 16th, are in the Mountain Time Zone. The communities and historic sites in each area have come together to create a memorable chain of events. Each site is grateful to the sponsors whose support made this commemoration possible. The Kansas Department of Wildlife Parks and Tourism, the Smoky Hill Trail Association, and Around Kansas have provided essential support. Dozens of other sponsors have supported the efforts, and they will be recognized at each site. A special shout out to the men and women portraying the Scouts. It is a huge commitment of time and resources, and without them, none of these events would be possible. Huzzah!
Fort Wallace was the fightingest fort in the West. Fossils, Indians, soldiers, scouts, wagons, trails, pioneers, stories. Discover the story of Fort Wallace and the people who served here, the people who fought here, the people who settled here. Wallace County, where the past is present.
With nearly 100 years of broadcasting excellence, Ren Radio is now live on the internet playing hit songs of the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Join Jack Diamond, Mac Collins, Les Glenn, Frankie C., Antonio Barber, Wings Callahan, and the real Don Steele for some of the best music ever recorded. Hear it at rendigitalmedia.com or get the Ren Oldies Radio app in Play Store or App Store and tell Alexa, good times and great oldies on Ren Internet Radio.
Summer is busy at Tarwater Farm and Home. We have just about everything you'll need for your summer projects, and we're consistently competitively priced. Tarwaters can help make your grass and garden grow, and we have a huge variety of equipment to cut it. If you have a farm, Tarwaters has the products and equipment to keep it going strong. And our expanded parking lot will make it even more convenient to shop. So come see us at Tarwater Farm and Home in Topeka.
Hi, I'm Kim Mandring with Hardy Insurance. I'm here to help you with all of your farm and ranch needs. When it comes to protecting your operation and your family, you need a name you can trust at a price you can afford. Call me today or visit hardyaviationins.com.
150 years ago, 50 men rode from Kansas into the Colorado Territory where hundreds of Cheyennes waited. They met on a fork of the Arickaree River and made history. Join us as we retrace their steps at sites in both states, Forts Harker, Hayes, and Wallace, the Beecher Island Battleground and Ray, Colorado Museum, with added events in Lincoln. Join us for the grand reunion of the Forsyth Scouts.
This segment brought to you by the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center in Oakley.
While we complain endlessly about the myriad flying creatures of summer that invariably make our lives miserable, we sing the praises of the butterfly. When it flutters by and chances to land on our hand, we consider ourselves blessed. Its virtues are proclaimed in art and song, and especially in popular culture, using the butterfly to sell everything from deodorant to insurance. There is even the butterfly effect, a theory that became so popular it inspired the film by the same name. The term butterfly effect, coined by Edward Lorenz, is derived from the metaphorical example of the details of a tornado, the exact time of formation, the exact path taken, being influenced by minor perturbations, such as the flapping of the wings of a distant butterfly several weeks earlier. Lorenz discovered the effect when he observed a very small change in initial conditions had created a significantly different outcome. Perturbations. That is your word for the week, folks. So, this simple little creature, who brings us so much joy and brightens our days with its brief and unexpected visits, naturally lends itself to metaphors. The fact that it transforms from one state of being to another, its initial life as a worm, its cocoon, its emergence as something beautiful. All these stages lend themselves to encouraging people through life transitions. The good news with this inspirational bug is that it is literally everywhere. There are dozens of species of butterflies and moths in Kansas, and lots of advice on how to attract them to your garden. There are Facebook pages and websites devoted to photos, gardening tips, and identification tools. Kids are naturally drawn to butterflies, and what kid hasn't taken a lovely lunar moth to school for science class or show and tell? Welcome to Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in Oakley, Kansas on I-70 at exit 76. I-70, after all, is America's main street, and we're right here on Main Street for you. Now that I'm an Oakley resident, I still come in almost every day, and I sit and listen to the conversations of the people around me. You know, the guys who are talking about the big elk they just bagged, or the folks who are taking their kid to college for the first time. People just traveling up and down the highway. Real people, just like you and me. And they find just what I find here, real people to serve them. There's history, there's scenery. We hope you'll stop and see us soon. Welcome to Oakley.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
The reaction we get most often from visitors to the Fort Wallace Museum is wow. With the addition of the Ray Pump Organ Collection, the wows just got louder. Visit any time, but mark your calendars for the weekend of September 8th, when we join in the grand reunion of Forsyth Scouts with an encampment, entertainment, and special tributes. Better yet, join the Guardians of Fort Wallace to be a part of the fun all year long.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Howdy folks, I'm Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate. Those of us who live out here in the middle of the country get used to one thing, and that is the weather's going to change. This poem is entitled, Just Wait a Minute, It'll Change. We've had lots of winter weather, so when we got a thaw, the chance to get outside was really quite a draw. It felt like cabin fever, so I was glad to get outside. Cleaned a feeder, built some fence, and managed to get in a horse ride. I stripped down to my shirt sleeves and got a whole lot of good work done, and found it was the spring's first exposure to the sun. The next day I was in the house a-paying some ranch bills when I heard a clap of thunder roll across the nearby hills. I tuned into the weather, and they proceeded to inform that a wave of snow might follow a local thunderstorm. I just shook my head and went back to working on the books, when what I saw out the window made me take a second look. Big, fat, wet snowflakes were falling from the sky. It looked like a full-fledged blizzard passing by. I finished up my paperwork and bundled up to do my chores, and found the sun shining brightly across the great outdoors. It made me think about the weather pattern in this Kansas land. It'll change so dadgum fast that it is hard to understand. And I said to my wife as the weather made its turn, you know you live in Kansas when it snows on your sunburn. Happy trails.
Sure Crop Fertilizers was started by my father, Don Sherman, and my mother, Shirley Sherman. Family business that started in the 80s. We predominantly focus on plant nutrients and what we can do to give growers better responses with the fertilizer dollars that they do, and what we can do to make those things work better for the grower. We're based out of Seneca, Kansas. We work with growers in their soil analysis to figure out what they need, and then we can put those in a blend that gives them the best results, and so that we can deliver that direct to their farm, so that they have those nutrients where they need them, when they need them, and so that they can apply them in a manner that's very efficient to them and works well on their planting systems and what they're doing. Sure Crop Fertilizers has been around for a long time. We always say we're big enough to take care of everything you need, but we're small enough to do it quickly. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-635-4743. Our website is surecropfertilizers.com, and you can always email me at corey@surecropfertilizers.com, and with any questions you have, and we're glad to answer and work with you.
Earlier in my life, I rode bucking horses in rodeos, and my shoulders took such a beating, and that was probably the reason for having several previous surgeries on both shoulders. About a year ago, I decided that I didn't want to have another surgery, and so I contacted Kansas Regenerative Medicine, took their treatment process. It was relatively pain-free. Now, after 8 months, my shoulders have healed to the point where I think I'm probably 90 to 95% of normal. It takes a couple of months to start to see results and feel real progress. That continued to increase gradually until now at approximately 8 months. And I'm extremely pleased. I've got full range of motion. I can lift weights, I can throw, I can do a lot of things that I couldn't do without a lot of pain previously. So I'm tickled to death with the results, and I'd recommend this process to anyone.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Every year, for nearly 50 years, the third week of September marks an historical pilgrimage. From near and far, guitar pickers and mandolin players and fiddlers, not to mention banjo pickers, load up their instruments and head to Winfield for the Walnut Valley Festival. This year's dates are September 12th through the 16th. Evolving from 2 days in 1972 to its current 5 days, the Walnut Valley Festival endeavors to produce family fair entertainment on 4 stages simultaneously. A large quality juried arts and crafts fair, workshops, and acoustic instrument contest. What began with 10 acts and 2 contests now boasts over 30 acts and 8 contests, including 2 international contests, 5 national contests, and the Walnut Valley contest. The contests are a major part of the festival, along with the National Flat Pick Championships and the International Fingerstyle Championships. The Walnut Valley Festival hosts the International Auto Harp, National Mandolin, National Mountain Dulcimer, National Hammered Dulcimer, National Bluegrass Banjo, and Walnut Valley Old Time Fiddle Championships. Over the course of years, the contests at Winfield have attracted more than 3,000 contestants from all 50 states, as well as many foreign countries, including Australia, Canada, Denmark, Sweden, England, Germany, Italy, Japan, New Caledonia, Switzerland, and Wales. Well-known Winfield winners include Mark O'Connor of Nashville, Tennessee, who has won or placed in more Walnut Valley Festival contests than any other contestant. Mark won the National Guitar Flat Picking Championship in 1975 and 77, and also won the Walnut Valley Fiddle Championship in 74 and 77. Allison Krause of Nashville won the Walnut Valley Fiddle Championship in 1984. We could read the list of winners, the incredible performers who have graced the stages over the years, and just the number of fans who rally each year. But none of these go to the heart of the Walnut Valley Festival, the bringing together of folks from all ethnicities, all walks of life, for one thing: to make music. The air is filled with joyful voices, old, young, male, female, on key, some not so much, but the chorus is glorious. Each year, the circle changes as some friends pass away and new friends come along, but the circle never ends. The Winfield experience stays with you, transforms you. It is far more than a show. It is a family reunion with family from around the world, perhaps even family you will never meet. But for those moments in September, you will be of one mind and one heart in Kansas. On Wednesday afternoon, September 12th, I will be signing copies of my book, Kansas Music, Stories of a Rich Tradition, in the retail area of the festival. The signing is set for 2 p.m., and if I can carve out the time, on Thursday as well. My friend Sue Ann Seal coined the term Winfold for the feeling of camaraderie experienced during the festival. I can hardly wait to be taken back into the windfold, and can't wait to see you there.
That's it for today. I'm Frank. Deb's out in western Kansas, and we'll see you somewhere around Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy Street.